Good morning and welcome to our live event. If we are live in Facebook, in my group, Women Healing from Emotional Abuse with Power, Passion, and Pleasure. You might also be catching this later on my YouTube channel, Pleasure for Health. My name is Ailsa and I just wanted to actually come on and really talk about how do we move forward? How do we move forward in our life with joy and ease and gratitude and all the things that all the gurus say are so, imperative to us healing and being healthy and finding, fulfillment in our lives. But we need to look at also how to overcome the obstacles to that, how to overcome those negative thought patterns that, are just living in our head. They have way too much real estate in our head. And, how do we switch that up so that we can actually move forward? So I just wanted to come on today and really just look at some of the ways that I've found work really well, both for myself and also for my clients. So I want to start off by saying that life can be honestly about pleasure and enjoyment, and it takes work. It is not just something that we can sit on the couch in a negative mindset, wishing we could have something better, and then it just kind of turns up at the door. Maybe that happens for some people. It didn't happen for me. I definitely had to make certain choices, and they were hard choices. It seems like it should be, there should be some kind of reward for each step that we take forward, but sometimes it just feels like panicked, and I know for myself a couple of times, I had to choose for myself, this was my choice. I don't mean that everybody has to make these choices, but I made a choice to go and learn about life mission, about energy work, about working with my field, about where I was blocking my own self. And so I had to go away to do a few courses in this. And I had 4 children at home, and I was a single parent. So going away is difficult, as many of you probably know. And so I had to set up, my kids with my mom usually trying to look after them, or my ex-husband trying to look after them. And that's a whole story where I left him in charge and he just didn't come home for 24 hours. And my kids called me while I was away. And, there's definitely obstacles. And, maybe that sounds like a bad mother. I had to overcome that obstacle. Many times when I went away, I cried the entire journey to where I was going because I felt so bad leaving my kids. Either with their dad or even my mom, sometimes they didn't want their grandmother, they wanted me. But for my own sanity, I knew that I needed to make some of these difficult choices. So I went away on some of these courses, and it wasn't easy. The kids had a hard time. Sometimes they weren't in danger at any point. There was always an adult there that was able to look after them, but they felt the stress of me going away, obviously having, only one parent that was mostly around. So that for me was a really big one. But later on, when they were sort of teenagers and I was deciding to spend quite a bit of money on an online course to sort of market my coaching programs, and I was like, do you think that I can do this? And my kids were my biggest fans. They were my biggest fans. They said, Mom, we don't, we're behind you. If you spend, all of the grocery money on that for a while, we'll help you. We'll do odd jobs for the neighbors. We'll make it work. You do what you need to do. And so they also stood behind me for that. So I would say for me, having my children, I made sacrifices, I made choices, and then they were able to do that as well. They saw that sometimes you have to make these hard choices, and that's how you get ahead. So for me, there were some difficult times, and I've continued, sometimes you make a choice and then you completely panic that it's the wrong choice. I know many, especially women, if you're leaving a difficult relationship situation, I chose to leave a house that I owned in a different country. I probably will never see that money or that house I don't know if it'll ever get passed on to my kids. I don't know. But there are things that we just have to kind of let go of and move forward. And so the difficulty of having to do that, as well as find our life purpose, like what is the draw that would be so strong that would help us do those difficult things? Because if we don't know what it is we are passionate about, then it's very difficult to take those steps forward. So finding our life purpose, our passion, is one of the most helpful things you can do. And it's also one of the hardest things to do, because especially if you've had emotional abuse, manipulative relationships, if you've grown up in a household where you didn't get to discover what you were really passionate or loved, it's hard to find those things. So you don't even know what you love. All you know is that you potentially just love the other person who is abusing you, or you love your kids, and so you put your heart into that, and nothing wrong with that at all. But there's something about finding our own passion, our own purpose, even if it is, and I shouldn't say even, if it is your kids and family, that is a really important, could be your purpose in life. Then we really have to really dig deep with that. Are we actually helping our family or helping promote our kids' well-being by staying with an abusive person, or by staying in a situation where we're not showing them how to move forward themselves? I mean, that was a question I also asked myself was, I have all daughters. What are they seeing as far as a role model for them as young women, to see me unhappily married in a situation where I'm not empowered? Like, what am I actually teaching them? Whatever I say to them doesn't matter, because what they're noticing is the actions, what the feeling of the home, right? The feeling of the family, the way that I might give into my ex-husband at the time, so my husband at the time. So it's interesting to really grapple with that. And if your life purpose maybe is to, run a business, or to be an artist, or to help other women, what is that purpose, and how do you get attached to it from your own heart? How can you move towards that in such a way that you are going to have that drive to make a difficult choice? And when you make it, if you spend $5,000, learning how to, do flower arranging because you want to be a florist, and you go back to school and you spend time away from your kids, maybe you have to get a babysitter, X, Y, and Z. What is that passion going to carry you forward, and how do you do that? So I think it's, this is part of why in my coaching program with women, somewhere in the middle of the program, when we're kind of getting into that meaty, like, am I really going to do this, or am I just going to go revert back to my old patterns? I do a module on this, like finding our pleasure, our joy. What do we love? We need to find out who we are as beings that have passion, because passion is what carries us through those hard times. I think, if you believe in something, if you have a passion, and this isn't just an airy fairy, I believe in good in the world, I believe in peace, I believe in whatever, that's great, again, but we need to get really specific and break that down to what are you passionate about for, in your own life. If you're passionate about peace in the world, that's great on a meta level. How are you going to, implement that in your own life? So if you're passionate about peace, that's an okay starting point, but let's get really specific. And how are you promoting peace in yourself, with your relationships, with your colleagues at work, or, with people you meet at the grocery store, or how are you actually acting on that? So I think that's also something where I see a lot of people kind of expecting that they can just have the idea and suddenly that will fix everything. It doesn't fix everything. The action on the idea. So you have the idea, you have the passion, you bring the heart, and then you have to bring the will, the actual action to take a step forward, to work on it in your own life. You can believe in family values, let's say, that you believe that family should stay together and all that. Okay, so if your family is not that, then how are you going to make it that, right? How are you going to move towards that if family means finding a partner that is a great co-parent, that can be there for you, that you are supporting them, that helps support your children, that you both invest in a home to live in? You know, if that's your idea and your values, then great. How are you going to break that down into steps that you're going to take from this moment? How are you going to work towards that? So not just saying like, well, I can't, you know, I don't have that. No one ever comes into my life. Okay, that's the reality for now. But how are we going to move forward with working towards that? Is it taking a class in relationships, you know, joining a codependency group so you work out where you may be attracting people that are more codependent than, you know, or dependent on you rather than interdependent, rather than having this ability to match you in a relationship. How are you showing up for your kids? Do you play on your phone all the time because you're too depressed to be there? Do you cook dinner and sit down at the table and talk to your kids, you know, when they come home from school or whatever? How are you creating that reality? And, you know, that might sound like a lot of work, and it kind of is a lot of work. But if it comes from this passion, it doesn't feel so hard. It doesn't feel like you're doing it for someone else. You're doing it for you. And that's very different. And I have to say, like, becoming more of an entrepreneur, it's a similar thing. You know, you're not working for anyone else. This is your life. Like, how are you going to live it? And fortunately for most of us, we do have choices. There are very few people that I've ever spoken to that really don't have a choice. You know, you might have a difficult choice. It might be a choice of, do I go to a women's shelter or do I stay where I'm getting abused every day? That's a hard choice. That's a really hard choice. But you do have one, right? And, you know, making whichever choice you make will lead to the next choice, you know? So if you choose to stay, it leads to this next choice. How are you going to survive? How are you going to do this? How are you going to maybe save some money so that maybe you can get out one day? How are you going to learn to relate to your partner so that it's not such a bad situation for you? You know, how are you going to nail that down for today, right now? And we go into that deeply in the coaching program that I have. So you can always reach out to me and book a call if you're interested. But this idea that we're going for something that we're passionate about, you know, we're not just, you know, saying no to things. We want to actually learn to say yes to something. We want to say yes to ourselves, to our pleasure. So I'm going to read you a poem. This is a poem in a book called by Saida Desilets, and she wrote The Emergence of the Sensual Woman, which is a little bit about sexuality. I also am trained in sexuality coaching and relationships. So part of this is to really find pleasure. You know, that relationships and our erotic desires and everything is kind of tied together with our passion, right? How do we bring our passion to ourselves, to our relationship, to our work? Erotic energy helps that. Anyway, this is not too erotic, this poem particularly, but it speaks to this idea of moving towards something we love. The return home isn't always easy. Life tests our truth, our fortitude, our stamina, our core beliefs. When in a difficult stretch, when the horizon is hidden around that next bend, take heed of this. It is only a test to see if you remember. Do you? Do you know why you are here? Those things that you call challenges are really magnificent gifts, bestowed with love and a sprinkle of humor. If we can remember together that laughter and love are the main ingredients, we will stop pretending that we have to be serious, recognizing that our freedom, true freedom, lies in our own understanding of our why. So why are you here? And this is a question I ask of all of the women that I coach, that I take into my program. You know, why are you here? Why are you doing this? Why are you why bother, right? And I think most of them actually want to help other women, and some of them are doing exactly that. They've gone through their own process, and now they're out there helping other women, other people that need support and guidance. And we all need that at a certain points in our life. You go along and you get support for these different hurdles that you meet. So I just thought that was worth bringing up in a video, and just to remind ourselves that the why are we here is one of the most important questions, and the why has to connect with this passion, this desire. Remember, if you can remember a time in your life when you were so excited about something, where you really wanted something. It might have been when you were 2 and you wanted like a balloon. It might have been when you were 10 and you wanted your best friend to come over for a sleepover. It might have been when you were 20 and you met the most gorgeous person ever and you wanted them to be with you. Like it might be any of those things. It might have been, a horse that you wanted to ride. Try to think of a time when you were so passionate, you really wanted this thing and you knew you wanted it. It was all you could think about. That's what you want to touch in on when you're starting your journey of healing. You want to find something that you can, feel like that about. If you want to, be the best mom ever, if you want to be a woman that helps other women, if you want to be someone who helps eliminate some of the strife in the world, the conflict, the abuse, you want to help oppressed people, like whatever that is, like find that feeling and hold on to it. That's what's going to start your journey. That's what's going to give you the impetus to start taking that step. And that first step is whatever it is for you. I think quite often, in the free webinar, which, some of you have probably watched, one of the steps in that is that you might need support with moving along. But that first inner desire, nobody can give you that. You can't pay anybody to give you that. You have to find it in you. What is that passion? What is that desire? And once you have that, you can keep working on the next step. And honestly, the next step will, the path shows the way, right? And in the tarot deck, some of you may be into tarot. I sometimes teach tarot as well. The Fool, the first card in the major arcana, the Fool. You see him stepping off this cliff into the abyss. That is it. What will take you to that place where you're like, I don't care anymore. I don't need to play it safe. I need to follow my heart. What is the thing that you can find for yourself? And if you want help even finding that, then I would be more than happy to work with you. Book a call with me. I'll put the link there. It's ailsakepi.com/apply. It's pretty easy. You can book a call with me. We'll talk about how to get to your why, your intention, your passion, and what is the first step for you if you want some help getting clarity on that. Because I would love to see you find that feeling, hold on to it, and really step forward in your life, because it helps all of us. It's not just about me having that and then everybody else like following it or somebody else having it. It's about all of us having that and helping each other, lift each other up. So if that rings true for you, then definitely let us know. Drop a comment, like what really lights you up? What is something that you are willing to risk the difficulties for? What are you willing to push through the obstacles for? I definitely had my kids on that list of things. I had showing them what an empowered woman looks like, showing my daughters what that looked like. That was like for me. It really touched my heart. It was finding a way to make some extra money to help them, pay for their education. That definitely drove me. There was a lot about that. There was helping other women that I knew were in the similar situation that I have gone through, and helping them really find their passion. Helping people to be connected to their body so that they find their own wisdom. That's still a passion of mine. And I work every day with that now. So I get to do it all the time, which is pretty awesome. So drop a comment. Let me know what your passion is, where you're going with that. You know, did this touch you? Did this give you that drive? Think about it, feel into it, take a step, whatever that is. Book a call with me if you want. I'd love to talk to you. So that's going to be my motivational speech for today. Hope you found some wisdom in here, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Keep looking for that passion. Keep holding on to it. That is what takes us through the difficult times. All right, I'm going to leave it there. It's Ailsa. You can find me at pleasureforhealth.com, ailsakepi.com. I'd be more than happy to have you connect with me. All right, take care.